In a world ruled by magic, power decided who deserved to exist. Those born without mana were treated as shadows. Arin was one of them. At 10 years old, he stood before the Royal Magic Academy. The massive gates felt like the border of another world. Noble children arrived in shining carriages. Their robes glowed with pure mana. Their laughter was filled with confidence. Arin's clothes were torn and faded. He carried nothing but hope. Whispers followed him across the courtyard. Some stared with pity. Others laughed without shame. The evaluation crystal floated above the altar, shone brightly for the gifted children. Fire, lightning, and light erupted one after another. Cheers echoed through the academy grounds. Arin waited until his name was called. His heart beat faster with every step. He placed his hand on the crystal. The crystal stayed silent. No light appeared. No reaction followed. A heavy silence spread across the crowd. An instructor examined the crystal again. His expression grew cold. "No magic detected," he said. Laughter exploded around Arin. A noble boy mocked him openly. "Why is trash standing here?" Arin clenched his fists in pain. His nails dug into his palms. He refused to look away. "Please give me a chance," Arin said. "I will train harder than anyone else." The instructor turned his back on him. The academy has no place for the powerless. The gates slowly began to close. The sound echoed like a final judgment. Arin felt his dream shatter. Rain started to fall from the dark sky. The crowd dispersed without a second glance. Arin remained alone in the courtyard. He walked into the empty streets. Tears mixed with the cold rain. His chest burned with anger. He questioned why he was born. Steps led him underground. Darkness swallowed the path ahead. Ancient ruins appeared beneath the city. Warning symbols covered the stone walls. Arin ignored them without hesitation. Deep inside, he found a black book. Its cover was cracked and worn. The air around it felt unnatural. A faint whisper filled the ruins. Arin reached out slowly. The moment he touched the book, time froze. Cold pain rushed through his body. His vision darkened instantly. A voice echoed inside his mind. "You were born without a fate," it said. "That makes you free." Pain surged through his bones and muscles. His body began to change. This power was not magic. It felt ancient and cruel. Arin screamed as the ruins trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The black book glowed faintly. Power sank deep into his flesh. His heart beat louder than ever. Arin collapsed onto the stone floor. His breathing was heavy and uneven. Darkness slowly consumed his sight. Silence returned to the ruins. Above the city, the academy lights shone proudly. The instructors slept peacefully. They sensed nothing at all. They believed they had rejected a nobody. Beneath the city, something had awakened. A power the world did not understand. Arin's body continued to adapt in silence. His weakness was being erased. His pain became his foundation. The boy without magic had survived. His story was no longer ordinary. The academy had made a fatal mistake. A monster was being born, and this was only the beginning. Arin woke up on the cold stone floor, his body aching as if it had been torn apart and rebuilt again. The ruins were silent, yet the air felt heavy, as though something unseen was watching his every breath. When he tried to stand, pain shot through his legs, forcing him back down. His heartbeat sounded unfamiliar, slower yet far stronger than before. Memories of the academy's rejection replayed endlessly inside his mind. The laughter, the closed gates, and the cold words refused to fade. Arin clenched his teeth, swearing he would never feel that powerless again. As he pushed himself up, his muscles trembled but did not fail. For the first time, his weakness did not stop him. The black book lay beside him, silent but present. Its cracked cover pulsed faintly, as if responding to his awakening. When Arin touched it again, the ancient voice returned without warning. It spoke of strength born from suffering rather than magic or talent. The voice explained that this power would grow only through pain and endurance. Arin listened carefully, realizing there would be no easy path ahead. He accepted the condition without hesitation, having already lost everything. The book revealed the first trial, a brutal test of survival. The ruins themselves began to shift, as if alive. Stone walls moved, blocking the path behind him. Darkness closed in from all sides. Arn was forced to move forward, despite his injured body. Sharp stones cut his feet as he walked deeper into the ruins. Each step sent waves of pain through his legs and spine. He fell more than once, scraping his skin against the cold ground. Yet every time he stood up faster than before. His body slowly adjusted to the punishment. His breathing grew steadier with each struggle. Hunger and thirst tested his limits relentlessly. Days passed without light or rest. Arn learned to endure the darkness alone. The voice spoke again, reminding him that survival was only the beginning. Aaron began using the ruins themselves as his training ground. He lifted fallen stones until his arms shook violently. He ran through narrow passages until his lungs burned. His muscles tore and healed repeatedly. Pain became his constant companion. Slowly, his body started to change in visible ways. His frame grew stronger and more defined. His movements became sharper and more controlled. This strength felt different from magic. It did not flow outward as energy. It settled deep within his flesh and bones. Every strike he practiced carried real weight. Every fall hardened his resolve further. Arn stopped counting the days. Time lost its meaning in the darkness. The only thing that mattered was growth. The black book observed in silence. Occasionally it whispered guidance through the pain. Aaron followed without question. One day, Arn noticed something strange. Wounds that once took days to heal now closed within hours. His endurance surpassed anything he had known before. His body no longer begged him to stop. Instead, it demanded more strain. The voice confirmed that his first transformation had begun. Aaron felt fear, but it was quickly swallowed by determination. He remembered the academy's gates closing behind him. That memory fueled every movement he made. His hatred no longer controlled him. It sharpened him. In the ruins, Arn practiced fighting imaginary enemies. His punches cracked stone walls. His kicks shattered broken pillars. Blood often coated his hands, yet his eyes burned with focus, not rage. He was no longer training to survive. He was training to dominate. The boy who begged for a chance was fading away. Something colder and stronger replaced him. Far above, life continued inside the Royal Magic Academy. New students trained proudly, believing magic made them superior. None of them sensed the change beneath the city. None imagined the rejected boy still lived. Arn stood alone in the darkness, breathing steadily. His body now carried the marks of countless trials. Each scar told a story of endurance. He looked at his hands and felt no hesitation. One day he would return to the surface, not to beg, not to prove his worth, but to rewrite the rules of the world. The ruins echoed with his footsteps. The black book closed silently. Aaron's training was far from over. This was only the first stage of his awakening. The darkness accepted him as its own, and he accepted it without regret. New existence was being forged in silence. The path to destruction and rebirth had begun. The air inside the ruins changed the moment Aaron stepped into the deeper chambers beneath the city. A heavy pressure filled the space, warning him that this place was no longer meant for humans. His instincts screamed that something dangerous was waiting ahead. Yet Aaron continued forward without hesitation, his steps calm and deliberate. The black book vibrated slightly at his side, as if acknowledging what was about to begin. From the shadows, glowing eyes slowly opened, watching him in silence. A twisted creature emerged, its body fused with stone and corrupted mana. This was not a monster created by nature, but by forbidden experiments long forgotten. The creature roared, shaking the chamber with overwhelming force. Aaron felt fear rise briefly, then disappear beneath his resolve. This was no longer training. This was survival against a living enemy. The creature charged, claws tearing through the ground with brutal speed. Aaron barely dodged, feeling the wind of death brush past his face. His body reacted before his mind could think, countered with a punch fueled by every trial he had endured. His fist collided with the monster's chest, cracking stone and flesh together. The creature staggered, shocked that a human could harm it without magic. Aaron felt the impact echo through his bones, yet his arm did not break. Instead, his body adapted instantly. The monster roared again, striking wildly in rage. Aaron was thrown against the wall, blood spilling from his mouth. Pain spread across his ribs, sharp and unforgiving. For a brief moment, darkness threatened to claim him. Then memories surged through his mind. The Academy's laughter, the closed gates, the word powerless. Arn stood up slowly, his breathing steady despite the pain. His eyes no longer held fear. He rushed forward, faster than before, his movements sharper and heavier. Each strike carried intent, not desperation. The creature tried to defend itself, but its attacks grew slower. Aaron learned its patterns with every exchange. He dodged claws by instinct. He countered with crushing blows to joints and weak points. Stone shattered beneath his fists. Flesh tore under his grip. Blood splattered across the chamber floor. Monster screamed, not in rage but in panic. For the first time, Aaron realized something terrifying. He was enjoying the clarity of battle, not the pain, but the control, the knowledge that he could end this fight. With a final leap, Aaron drove his fist into the creature's core. A deep crack echoed through the chamber. Corrupted mana inside the monster exploded violently. The creature collapsed, lifeless and broken. Silence returned, heavier than before. Aaron stood over the corpse, breathing slowly. His hands trembled slightly, stained with blood and stone dust. This was the first life he had ever taken. The weight of it pressed against his chest, yet he felt no regret, only acceptance. The black book opened on its own, pages turning rapidly. The ancient voice spoke again, calm and approving. It declared that Aaron had passed the first true trial. The creature's remains dissolved into dark energy. That energy flowed directly into Aaron's body. Pain returned, sharper and deeper than before. His muscles tightened violently as his body absorbed the power. Veins darkened beneath his skin for a brief moment. Aaron dropped to one knee, teeth clenched in silence. When the pain faded, he felt heavier, denser, stronger. His senses sharpened far beyond normal limits. He could hear distant footsteps above the city. He could feel mana moving through the earth. The world had become clearer and more fragile. Aaron slowly stood up again. He looked down at the place where the monster had fallen. This victory marked a point of no return. He was no longer a victim of this world. He was becoming a threat to it. Far above, a group of Academy mages felt a strange disturbance. They dismissed it as a minor fluctuation. None of them imagined its true source. Aaron walked deeper into the ruins, unafraid of what awaited him next. His path was now stained with blood, and he did not intend to stop. The boy who once begged for acceptance was gone. In his place stood something forged by suffering and choice. Aaron had crossed the line between human weakness and true power. The darkness no longer tested him. It followed him. Each step forward pulled him closer to the surface world. Closer to the Academy that rejected him. Closer to inevitable collision. The world had not noticed yet, but its balance had already begun to crack. The air inside the ruins changed the moment Aaron stepped into the deeper chambers beneath the city. A heavy pressure filled the space, warning him that this place was no longer meant for humans. His instincts screamed that something dangerous was waiting ahead. Yet Aaron continued forward without hesitation, his steps calm and deliberate. The black book vibrated slightly at his side, as if acknowledging what was about to begin. From the shadows, glowing eyes slowly opened, watching him in silence. A twisted creature emerged, its body fused with stone and corrupted mana. This was not a monster created by nature, but by forbidden experiments long forgotten. The creature roared, shaking the chamber with overwhelming force. Aaron felt fear rise briefly, then disappear beneath his resolve. This was no longer training. This was survival against a living enemy. The creature charged, claws tearing through the ground with brutal speed. Aaron barely dodged, feeling the wind of death brush past his face. His body reacted before his mind could think, countered with a punch fueled by every trial he had endured. His fist collided with the monster's chest, cracking stone and flesh together. The creature staggered, shocked that a human could harm it without magic. Aaron felt the impact echo through his bones, yet his arm did not break. Instead, his body adapted instantly. The monster roared again, striking wildly in rage. Aaron was thrown against the wall, blood spilling from his mouth. Pain spread across his ribs, sharp and unforgiving. For a brief moment, darkness threatened to claim him. Then memories surged through his mind. The Academy's laughter, the closed gates, the word powerless. Arn stood up slowly, his breathing steady despite the pain. His eyes no longer held fear. He rushed forward, faster than before, his movements sharper and heavier. Each strike carried intent, not desperation. The creature tried to defend itself, but its attacks grew slower. Aaron learned its patterns with every exchange. He dodged claws by instinct. He countered with crushing blows to joints and weak points. Stone shattered beneath his fists. Flesh tore under his grip. Blood splattered across the chamber floor. The monster screamed, not in rage but in panic. For the first time, Aaron realized something terrifying. He was enjoying the clarity of battle, not the pain, but the control, the knowledge that he could end this fight. With a final leap, Aaron drove his fist into the creature's core. A deep crack echoed through the chamber. Corrupted mana inside the monster exploded violently. The creature collapsed, lifeless and broken. Silence returned, heavier than before. Aaron stood over the corpse, breathing slowly. His hands trembled slightly, stained with blood and stone dust. This was the first life he had ever taken. The weight of it pressed against his chest, yet he felt no regret, only acceptance. The black book opened on its own, pages turning rapidly. The ancient voice spoke again, calm and approving. It declared that Iran had passed the first true trial. The creature's remains dissolved into dark energy. That energy flowed directly into Ern's body. Pain returned, sharper and deeper than before. His muscles tightened violently as his body absorbed the power. Veins darkened beneath his skin for a brief moment. Aaron dropped to one knee, teeth clenched in silence. When the pain faded, he felt heavier, denser, stronger. His senses sharpened far beyond normal limits. He could hear distant footsteps above the city. He could feel mana moving through the earth. The world had become clearer and more fragile. Aaron slowly stood up again. He looked down at the place where the monster had fallen. This victory marked a point of no return. He was no longer a victim of this world. He was becoming a threat to it. Far above, a group of Academy mages felt a strange disturbance. They dismissed it as a minor fluctuation. None of them imagined its true source. Aaron walked deeper into the ruins, unafraid of what awaited him next. His path was now stained with blood, and he did not intend to stop. The boy who once begged for acceptance was gone. In his place stood something forged by suffering and choice. Aaron had crossed the line between human weakness and true power. The darkness no longer tested him. It followed him. Each step forward pulled him closer to the surface world. Closer to the academy that rejected him. Closer to inevitable collision. The world had not noticed yet, but its balance had already begun to crack. The incident at the marketplace did not remain a secret for long, even though Aaron vanished before questions could be asked. Rumors spread quietly through the city, twisting the truth into something far more unsettling. Some claimed a hidden martial artist had appeared. Others whispered of a cursed being who could strike without mana. By nightfall, the Royal Magic Academy had taken notice. In a silent chamber, high within the towers, senior instructors gathered around a glowing artifact. The artifact replayed distorted fragments of the marketplace incident, mage collapsing without a spell ever touching him. Confusion filled the room. Fear followed shortly after. That strength was not magic, one elder said, his voice strained. Then what was it? Another demanded. No one answered, and the silence felt dangerous. Orders were given to investigate quietly. The academy could not afford panic. Elite scouts were dispatched into the city. None of them expected to find Aaron so isolated. Hidden in the lower districts, Aaron listened to the city breathe. He had chosen an abandoned building as his temporary shelter. From there, he observed the academy's movements carefully. The black book rested open beside him, its pages moving on their own. The ancient voice warned him that the world had begun to react. Aaron felt no surprise at this revelation. He had already sensed eyes watching from afar. Instead of fear, he felt a strange calm. Pressure no longer crushed him. It sharpened his focus. That night, the book revealed a new stage of training. It's not strength of the body alone, but control of intent. Aaron was instructed to suppress his presence completely, to move without leaving fear or mana behind. He practiced for hours, standing still until even his breath faded. The city sounds blurred around him. His heartbeat slowed until it felt distant. For brief moments he felt invisible. The book warned that failure would expose him instantly. Arn accepted the risk without complaint. Pain returned as his body resisted the unnatural restraint. He endured it silently. Meanwhile, Academy scouts searched alleyways and markets. Some sensed something wrong but could not explain it. Others felt watched and turned back in fear. One scout, more arrogant than cautious, followed his instincts too deeply. He entered the abandoned district alone. Aaron sensed him long before he appeared. The presence felt sharp and careless. Aaron did not move immediately. He waited until the mage crossed an invisible line. Then he stepped out of the shadows. The scout barely had time to react. Aaron's strike was precise, controlled, and merciless. The mage collapsed unconscious before a spell could form. Aaron caught him before his body hit the ground. He felt no satisfaction, only efficiency. The book whispered approval. Aaron hid the scout where he would be found alive. A warning, not an execution. The message was clear. He was not prey. By morning, panic spread quietly among the Academy elites. One of their own had been defeated without resistance. The elders realized this threat was learning, adapting, growing beyond expectation. Aaron stood atop a building as dawn broke across the city. He watched the Academy towers catch the first light. Once that sight filled him with longing. Now it filled him with resolve. He would not rush his revenge. Aaron understood something crucial at that moment. To destroy a system, brute force was not enough. Fear had to spread first. Doubt had to rot its foundation. He would become a shadow the Academy could not understand, one that struck when least expected, one that vanished without explanation. The black book closed slowly. Its next trial was approaching, and it would not be merciful. Aaron tightened the cloth around his hands. His body felt ready for something greater,
All the city moved on.
unaware of the silent war beginning within it. The Academy believed it still held control, as that illusion would soon shatter. Aaron stepped back into the shadows without a sound. His presence faded completely. The hunter and the hunted had switched roles. The game had begun. There would be no turning back. The Academy could no longer ignore the growing tension spreading through its walls. Reports of defeated scouts reached the highest instructors by dawn. Whispers of a monolith fighter unsettled even the proud elites. An emergency council was called within the central tower. Among them stood Instructor Valon, known for his absolute control over force magic. He was the same man who had once turned his back on Aaron. Valon volunteered to hunt the threat personally. He believed no being without magic could challenge him. His confidence was sharpened by arrogance. That night, he left the Academy alone. Aaron sensed Valon's presence the moment he entered the lower districts. The pressure of controlled mana rolled through the streets like a warning. Aaron did not retreat. He waited atop a silent rooftop, watching calmly. The black book remained closed, offering no guidance this time. This battle was his choice alone. Valon stopped in the empty square below. His eyes scanned the darkness with cold precision. "Come out," Valon said, his voice filled with disdain. Aaron stepped forward without hiding. Moonlight revealed his scarred body and steady expression. Valon laughed when he saw no mana around Aaron. "So you're just a stray," he mocked. Aaron said nothing. Silence stretched between them like a blade. Valon raised his hand, and invisible force exploded outward. The ground cracked violently beneath Aaron's feet. Aaron was thrown backward, slamming into stone. Pain surged through his spine. He stood up again without hesitation. Valon's smile faded slightly. He increased the pressure, bending the air itself. Buildings groaned as the force intensified. Aaron felt his bones strain under the weight. Memories of the ruins flooded his mind. He adjusted his stance and stepped forward. Each step was deliberate and heavy. Valon's eyes widened as Aaron moved through the pressure. "Impossible," Valon muttered. Aaron closed the distance in a sudden burst. Valon reacted instantly, forming a defensive barrier. Aaron's punch collided with the shield, sending shockwaves through the square. Cracks spread across the barrier like shattered glass. Valon was forced back several steps. For the first time, doubt crossed his face. He unleashed a barrage of force blades. Aaron dodged most, but one sliced his shoulder open. Blood spilled freely onto the ground. Aaron did not slow down. He welcomed the pain. Using the momentum, Aaron grabbed a broken pillar. He hurled it with pure physical strength. The massive stone shattered Valon's barrier completely. Valon barely avoided a direct hit. His breathing grew uneven. "What are you?" he demanded. Arn finally spoke, his voice calm and cold. "Someone you refuse to see." Rage twisted Valon's expression. He gathered all his mana into a final attack. Air screamed as pressure collapsed inward. Arn felt his vision blur as the force crushed toward him. He planted his feet firmly into the ground. Muscles tore as he pushed forward. His roar echoed through the streets. With a final surge, Aaron broke through the attack. He struck Valon directly in the chest. The impact sent the instructor flying. Valon crashed into a wall and collapsed. Silence returned once more. Aaron stood over Valon's unconscious body. His breathing was heavy, but controlled. He felt no joy in victory, only confirmation. The black book whispered softly at last. The voice acknowledged his growth. Aaron turned away without finishing Valon. This was not revenge. It was a message. The academy was no longer untouchable. Sirens echoed in the distance as guards approached, or vanished into the darkness before they arrived. Valon would wake up broken in body and pride. By morning, fear would spread through the academy halls. The story of a monoless fighter would grow louder. Aaron moved silently across the rooftops. His path was clear now. He was ready for something greater. The war had truly begun, and the academy would never be the same again. Days had passed since Aaron had defeated Instructor Valon, yet the echoes of his presence haunted the academy. Whispers of a monoless fighter had spread among students and teachers alike. The Council of High Instructors gathered urgently in the grand chamber of the academy. Each elder's face was etched with tension and disbelief. "He cannot be human," one whispered, staring at the reports. "No mage should withstand my elite students alone," another replied. Valon's failure was displayed as a warning, yet it frightened them more than it instructed. Council agreed unanimously. The threat had to be neutralized, but no one knew where he was, nor how to find him. Aaron, meanwhile, had already crossed into the city's heart with a singular purpose. At night, the academy gates shimmered under the moonlight. Aaron approached silently, every shadow bending around him like a cloak. He had trained to move without sound, without presence, without detection. The black book pulsed faintly at his side, guiding his intent. The streets near the academy were patrolled, but he avoided them effortlessly. Every guard who glanced his way felt a chill, but saw nothing. He scaled the outer walls with perfect precision. His hands bled from broken stones, yet he felt no fatigue. The tower's highest windows glimmered faintly with candlelight. That was where the council met. Aaron paused to survey the council chamber from above. Inside, elders debated strategies to counter his growing threat. Each word they spoke was filled with fear and underestimation. "If he attacks directly, our forces can crush him," one claimed confidently. Another disagreed. "He is unpredictable. His movements defy logic." Aaron listened, absorbing every detail of their strategy. Each comment sharpened his understanding of the system. Every assumption became a potential weakness to exploit. He did not intend to strike immediately. Timing was everything. Aaron leapt silently onto the ledge above the council chamber. The structure groaned slightly under his weight, unnoticed by those inside. Shadows clung to him like armor as he descended carefully. He could see the council's faces illuminated by the warm glow of lamps. Pride and fear danced across every expression. He inhaled, centering his focus as if preparing for a ritual. The black book opened slightly, whispering encouragement. Aaron's mind was calm, clear, and lethal. He had trained for this moment his entire life. The academy had taught him weakness. The ruins had forged strength. One misstep could reveal him. One detection could end everything before it began. Yet Aaron moved with the patience of a predator. The council's conversation continued unaware. "If only we had eliminated him before he reached maturity," one elder muttered. The words echoed in Aaron's mind, fueling his resolve. With a single motion, he descended silently onto the floor. Air shifted around him as if acknowledging his presence. No one noticed. Not yet. Aaron's gaze settled on the tallest figure in the council. High Elder Saren, known for mastery over combined elemental magic, led the chamber. Saren's confidence radiated even in this tense atmosphere. Aaron studied him, noting every stance, every subtle movement. This was the first time he would face someone beyond the elite instructors. The test would be personal. Aaron did not hesitate. He stepped forward with controlled precision. The first candle flickered. Saren's eyes lifted slowly. Recognition came instantly. His expression shifted from curiosity to alarm. "Impossible," Saren whispered, seeing Aaron fully for the first time. "The boy from the ruins." Aaron remained silent, letting the tension stretch like a drawn blade. The council erupted in panic, trying to summon spells, but movement alone could not reach him. Aaron's body was calm, a sharp contrast to the chaos. The black book pulsed with dark energy, feeding his controlled aura. With a sudden burst, Aaron closed the distance to Saren. The High Elder barely raised his barrier in time. Force clashed violently as Aaron struck repeatedly, testing the boundaries of Saren's magic. Each blow shattered parts of the protective wards. Council members gasped, unable to follow the speed and precision of his attacks. Saren's face grew pale as he struggled to maintain control. "No human should withstand this," he muttered. Euron's fist collided with the edge of the magical barrier, cracking it visibly. The chamber trembled violently. Lamps fell, shattering and scattering sparks across the floor. The elders stumbled, some seeking cover, others frozen in terror. Aaron stood unwavering, a shadow in the chaotic room. "This is your mistake, Aaron," said quietly, his voice carrying across the chamber. "You underestimated what you could not see." Saren's barrier began to falter under the relentless pressure. The remaining council attempted to combine spells, but fear and hesitation slowed them. Aaron adjusted his stance, exploiting every weakness. A single step, a precise strike, and the tallest elder was forced to retreat. The council realized too late the extent of their miscalculation. Aaron had entered not as a student, not as a threat, but as judgment itself. He vanished into the shadows once more before the council could recover. The academy had now seen the first true face of the storm, and its fear would only grow. Days after Aaron's infiltration, panic spread through the academy like wildfire. Rumors of a monolith fighter who moved like a shadow unsettled both students and teachers alike. The Council of Elders convened once again in the central hall. Every face was tense, every mind consumed by fear and uncertainty. "We cannot allow him to remain at large," High Elder Saren declared, his voice shaking slightly. "This is no ordinary student. He defies our rules, our power, our very authority." Other elders nodded grimly, each silently admitting they had underestimated him. Valon, still recovering from his defeat, bowed before the council. "If I may volunteer, I will lead a group to capture him," he said, pride mixed with caution. Valon agreed, assembling a team of the academy's strongest instructors. The following night, the group entered the ruined districts where Aaron had been training. The streets were eerily silent, almost as if the city itself feared what was coming. Aaron was waiting, unseen, atop a crumbling rooftop. The black book pulsed faintly, feeding him insight into their every movement. He observed their formation, 6 of the most powerful instructors, carefully coordinating spells and attacks. "I think numbers can overwhelm me," Aaron whispered to himself. The ground beneath them trembled slightly, a warning they failed to notice. Aaron descended silently, the shadows swallowing his form completely. One wrong step, one detection, and the plan would be ruined. He smiled faintly. As the instructors split to search the area, Aaron struck the first one with precise force. A single punch sent a mage crashing into a broken wall, unconscious before he could react. The others barely reacted, but their mana flared defensively. Ron moved like lightning, striking and retreating without leaving a trace. Valon roared, unleashing a flurry of force blades aimed to trap him. Aaron dodged effortlessly, reading the subtle shifts in their mana patterns. The first elder tried to overwhelm him with fire magic, yet Aaron grabbed a burning shard and redirected it back. Flames scorched the ground, leaving cracks and smoke. Panic began to ripple through the group. The boy without magic was no longer an unknown. He was a predator. Euron's movements were a blur, each strike calculated, each step controlled. Valon's pride began to crack as his spells failed repeatedly. One elder attempted to bind Aaron with a chain of lightning, but he shattered it with his bare hands. Another hurled a spell meant to crush his body entirely. Aaron twisted midair, letting the attack pass harmlessly beneath him. His body had become a weapon, every nerve and muscle trained for this exact moment. The black book whispered softly, feeding him anticipation and clarity. Arn's eyes glowed faintly under the moonlight, shadows wrapping around him like armor. The instructors began to realize they were fighting something beyond human comprehension. Fear replaced confidence. Valon's voice cracked. Oh, he's not human. Saren's barrier failed under Arn's calculated strike, forcing him back against a shattered pillar. One by one, the instructors fell two precise, controlled attacks. None were killed, but each was incapacitated or severely wounded. Aaron paused briefly, observing the battlefield. His breathing was steady, his mind calm. Every movement, every strike had a purpose. Show them the consequences of underestimating him. The Academy had thought themselves untouchable. They had been wrong. The remaining elders tried to regroup, combining their power into a massive spell. The sky above darkened with swirling mana, lightning crackling dangerously. Arn stood in the center, unmoved, analyzing the spell's formation. With a single motion, he disrupted the flow, using momentum and brute strength instead of magic. Shockwaves radiated outward, shattering windows and toppling walls. One elder was thrown into the ruins, screaming as his barrier collapsed. Valon struggled to stand, his pride wounded more than his body. Arn approached him calmly, every step resonating with power. "I have no need for magic," Arn said softly, voice echoing across the battlefield. "I am beyond it." The remaining elders realized their situation was hopeless. They attempted retreat, but the shadows around Arn moved like extensions of his will. Every escape route they considered was subtly blocked. Arn did not strike them further. His purpose was already fulfilled. Fear had been instilled. Respect, born of survival instinct, had followed. The battlefield was silent except for labored breathing. Moonlight reflected off cracked stone and broken walls. The black book closed quietly beside him. Arn looked at the elders, their eyes wide with terror. "Tell your council," he said, voice low but firm. "I am coming. And next time there will be no mercy." Without waiting for a response, he vanished into the shadows, leaving chaos in his wake. The city slept unaware of the true storm growing within it. By morning, tales of the encounter spread, twisting with each retelling. Students whispered of a shadow that struck without warning. Instructors argued and blamed one another for the humiliation. The council convened in secret, their fear palpable. High Elder Saren, pale and trembling, realized they had miscalculated the boy's potential entirely. Aren had become a force beyond comprehension. From the rooftops, Aren observed silently, his chest calm, his mind sharper than ever. He had tested their strength, and he had learned their weaknesses. The Academy's elite were shaken, but not destroyed. That would come later. First, he would continue to grow, to prepare for the inevitable confrontation with the Council itself. His body, his mind, his presence all were now weapons in perfect alignment. The city beneath him remained unaware of the storm that had already passed through its streets. Arn disappeared again into the night, a shadow, untouchable by those who believed themselves untouchable. The Academy had now seen true fear. It was only the beginning of the reckoning. The city slept peacefully, unaware of the storm gathering above the Royal Magic Academy. Arn had prepared meticulously for this moment, every scar and every trial converging into a single purpose. The black book lay open, its ancient voice calm but expectant. Tonight it whispered, "The world will see your truth." Aaron's eyes glowed faintly under the moonlight, shadows curling around him like living armor. He stepped onto the rooftops overlooking the academy, surveying the massive spires. Students laughed and trained within, oblivious to the approaching danger. Instructors patrolled the outer walls, confident in their wards and power. The council remained in the central chamber, unaware that judgment had already arrived. Arn inhaled slowly, feeling the weight of every step he was about to take. With a sudden burst, he leaped across the rooftops, faster than even the most elite mages could react. Shadows seemed to ripple around him, masking his movement completely. Guards noticed something wrong too late, only catching glimpses of a dark figure before he struck. Each strike was precise, calculated, leaving them incapacitated but alive enough to spread fear. Within minutes, the outer walls were breached silently. Arn moved through corridors and training halls, leaving chaos and whispers in his wake. Students panicked, their spells ineffective against a force they could not see or comprehend. The council summoned every available elder to intercept him. Valon, still recovering, appeared with 3 of the Academy's strongest instructors. Their combined power illuminated the hall with blinding energy. Aaron paused, observing their formation, his body calm and ready. He did not rush, understanding that patience now would yield absolute control. The first instructor launched a massive spell, capable of destroying the floor beneath him. Aaron twisted midair, letting it pass harmlessly, and countered with a single strike that shattered the mage's guard. Another tried to trap him with chains of pure elemental mana. Aaron moved through them with perfect timing, breaking every link without leaving a mark. Valon's eyes widened in disbelief as Aaron approached him without hesitation. "You, again," Valon gasped. The confidence of their last encounter gone. Ren said nothing, letting the darkness around him speak. Every shadow seemed to pulse and stretch, ready to strike at his command. The remaining elders realized instantly they were outmatched. Their spells collided and failed, dissipating harmlessly against the boys' calculated defenses. Arn struck Valon with controlled force, sending him crashing into a wall. High Elder Saren raised a shield and hurled elemental magic simultaneously, attempting to overwhelm him. Aaron caught the spell midair with his bare hands, feeling the searing energy against his skin. Pain flared, yet he absorbed it, turning it into strength. His body had grown far beyond mortal limits. His movements blurred faster than the eyes could follow. Shadows wrapped around Saren, constricting and paralyzing him. The council's fear reached its peak. Arn stepped calmly into the center of the grand chamber, his presence radiating absolute control. The black book hovered behind him, its pages fluttering as if alive. "I am no longer powerless," Arn said, voice calm but resonating through the hall. "You taught me weakness. I tried to break me. And now..." Every elder felt the weight of his words as reality sank in. "I am beyond your rules, beyond your magic, beyond your authority." Spells of every kind struck him simultaneously, but he moved with perfect precision. Each attack was deflected, absorbed, or redirected without effort. The air shimmered with the power he had accumulated in the ruins. A force far older and darker than magic itself surrounded him. Arn's eyes glowed fully, black shadows spiraling outward, consuming light around him. The council realized with horror that this was not a mere student. It was something else entirely. Valon struggled to his feet, but his attacks were weak against the overwhelming presence. The chamber walls cracked under the intensity of energy flowing through Aaron. He moved forward, each step echoing like thunder. The elders tried a combined spell, a final desperate measure. The energy collided with Aaron's shadow aura. For a moment, the hall shook violently. Then the spell broke apart harmlessly, unable to contain him. Aaron's voice rang out, commanding and terrifying. "The Academy will fall if it continues to underestimate what it cannot see." Shadows surged outward, enveloping the elders, leaving them trembling and paralyzed. Every corner of the chamber bent to his presence, as if the building itself obeyed him. Students outside screamed and ran, sensing the overwhelming shift in power. The city above remained oblivious, but the Academy's heart was shattered. Aaron moved past the council, stepping into the central hall. High Elder Saren fell to his knees, unable to comprehend the force before him. Aaron raised his hand slightly, and the shadows constricted around the strongest instructors. None dared resist. Every eye in the chamber was fixed upon him. "This is only the beginning," Aaron said softly. Ron seemed to shrink around his power. The council realized they were no longer rulers here. They were observers of something far greater. Iran's strength was complete, born of suffering, determination, and the shadow's will. The black book closed slowly, as if acknowledging the apex of his transformation. "Next time," he whispered, "the Academy will kneel before reality." Without warning, he vanished into the shadows again. Panic spread immediately as the elders struggled to regain control. Valon could only stare, broken in body and pride. High Elder Saren trembled, realizing they had created a monster they could not fight. Outside, students whispered rumors of the shadow that struck without magic. No one could believe what had occurred inside the grand hall. Reports would circulate, growing more terrifying with every retelling. The Academy's confidence had been shattered completely. Aaron stood atop the highest rooftop overlooking the ruined hall, breathing calmly. The city below slept, unaware of the force now walking among it. The storm had begun in earnest. The academy had been tested, humiliated, and shown the limits of its arrogance. Orange shadows stretched across the city, a silent promise of the reckoning to come. And the world would soon learn that the boy who had once been powerless was now unstoppable. Days had passed since Arn's last strike, but the academy's tension never eased. Whispers of his shadow spread among every student, every instructor, like wildfire. The council convened in secret, panic hidden behind forced composure. High Elder Saren's hands trembled as he addressed the room. He has learned faster than we anticipated. He is no longer a child. Valon nodded grimly, still haunted by his own defeat. We cannot fight him with standard magic. He surpasses everything we know. Another elder spoke hesitantly. Then we must prepare. A united strike. Every plan was carefully crafted, yet fear shadowed every word. Aaron, meanwhile, moved silently above the city, his shadow merging with the darkness. He had studied their defenses, analyzed every patrol, every magical ward. His body had grown stronger, faster, and sharper since the last confrontation. The black book hovered beside him, whispering faintly, guiding his intent. Tonight, it said, you will reveal yourself fully. The city slept, unaware of the predator moving within its streets. Aaron's heart was calm, his mind focused, every muscle taut with potential energy. He descended silently onto the outer walls of the academy. Wards glowed with defensive magic, yet they flickered as shadows touched them. He paused briefly, sensing every spell, every patrol, every hidden observer. The academy's defenses were strong, but shadows always find cracks. Aaron slipped past the outer wards, moving like liquid darkness across rooftops. Students practicing spells failed to notice him, their senses dulled by his shadow aura. Valon appeared with a squad of elite instructors attempting to intercept. Arn observed silently, letting them approach, learning their timing and formation. The first instructor launched a fireball, aiming to trap him, or twisted mid-air, letting it pass harmlessly, then struck with a precise physical blow. The instructor collapsed, unconscious but alive. Valon's face twisted in disbelief. How can this be? He muttered, stumbling back. Arn advanced calmly, shadows stretching and wrapping around his limbs. The council in the central chamber sensed the disturbances immediately. Saren's eyes widened as he saw multiple alarms triggered simultaneously. He's inside, Saren said, voice shaking. Prepare for the council's defense. Aaron's shadow moved faster, reaching the grand chamber before the instructors could regroup. He stepped into the hall, dark energy rippling around him. The council elders froze, seeing the boy fully for the first time in control. Shadows curled along the walls, twisting light into darkness, pulsing with intent. Aaron's eyes glowed faintly as he surveyed his enemies. He did not speak. Letting presence alone spread fear. He's here, Saren whispered, gripping his staff tightly. Valon tried to strike first, launching a combined force attack with 3 instructors. Aaron caught the attack effortlessly, compressing energy into his shadows. With a flick of his wrist, he redirected it outward, scattering the attack harmlessly.
Panic spread
among the remaining elders. Impossible. He's controlling the attacks without mana, one shouted. Aaron advanced slowly, shadows responding instantly to every movement. Each step he took seemed to bend reality around him. The council formed a combined spell, hoping to overwhelm him with sheer numbers. Arn analyzed their formation, recognizing every weakness instantly. Shadows surged outward, breaking barriers and separating the elders. The ground cracked beneath them as Arn's aura expanded, consuming space with power. Valon tried a desperate strike at his chest. Arn caught his arm mid-motion, twisting and tossing him across the hall. Saran formed a massive elemental shield, but Arn's shadows phased through it. Every elder felt the weight of his presence, every muscle tensed with fear. Euron's black eyes glowed fully as he summoned the shadows in full control. Tendrils of darkness wrapped around the council, immobilizing them instantly. The hall trembled, ancient wards breaking under his power. Students outside could feel the energy shifting, their hair standing on end. This is not destruction, Arn said calmly. It is your lesson. You underestimated me. Shadows constricted further, but no life was lost. Torin's aim was clear. Every strike, every movement was precision, teaching fear and respect. Valon struggled beneath his hold, realizing that brute force alone would never succeed. Saren's elemental energy flickered uncontrollably. "He's perfected himself," one elder whispered, almost in awe. Euron's shadow aura extended across the chamber, bending light, sound, and space. He stepped forward, letting the council feel the full weight of his presence. Every eye fixed on him, every breath catching in fear. "You have seen power," Arryn said softly, "but this is only the beginning." Shadows shifted around him, forming blades, spikes, and tendrils poised to strike. No one moved. No one dared resist. "The Academy will learn humility," he continued, voice echoing like thunder. "And the world will learn that shadows have their king." The council tried to escape, but every exit was subtly blocked by the black tendrils. Euron's aura radiated, bending space and twisting perception itself. Valon looked up, seeing his own arrogance reflected back at him in fear. High Elder Saren's knees buckled, unable to resist the oppressive force. Shadows tightened slightly, not to kill, but to command absolute attention. Arryn stepped back, letting them see his full form. The boy once powerless, now fully the Shadow King. The council and instructors gasped. Understanding that this was no student, they were witnessing a force beyond comprehension. His black aura pulsated, absorbing the very light around him. Every spell and shield they had would never hold him. He had transcended magic, physical limits, and fear itself. The black book hovered, closing faintly, acknowledging that Arryn had reached a new pinnacle. "Next time," he whispered, "there will be no mercy." With that, shadows surged, and he vanished into the darkness, leaving the council humbled and broken. The Academy had been shown its true limits. The Shadow King had risen fully, ready for the battles yet to come. The city slept under a false sense of peace, unaware that chaos had already begun inside the Royal Magic Academy. Arryn had vanished into the shadows after his last demonstration, but the echoes of his power haunted every hall. The council was fractured, fear and paranoia ruling their decisions. Saren sat quietly, staring at broken wards and shattered pride. "We cannot rely on old methods," he muttered, voice trembling. Valon, bruised and defeated, clenched his fists. "Then we strike together," he said, "or we are finished." Plans were drawn, new wards were raised, and elite squads assembled. What Arryn had already anticipated every move. Shadows moved silently across the city, watching, learning, preparing. That night, the first alarm sounded. Arryn had infiltrated the eastern gate again, moving unseen among patrolling instructors. A single strike disabled 2 elite guards before they could even cast a spell. The alarm flared across the academy, yet no one could locate him. Shadows whispered through corridors, curling around walls, sensing every defense. Valon led a team to intercept him, moving cautiously through the halls. Arryn observed them from above, studying their formation, noting their weaknesses. His aura pulsed faintly, a reminder that he no longer relied on magic alone. He leaped from the rooftop silently, landing behind Valon's team. A quick motion, precise and controlled, and the first mage fell unconscious. Valon realized immediately what had happened. He's faster than we imagined. Another strike brought down the next instructor, and then another. Shadows wrapped around the remaining instructors, constricting movement without lethal force. Arryn moved like liquid darkness, a predator among prey. He did not attack further. His goal was control, fear, and knowledge. Every movement of the council, every defensive spell, was being recorded in his mind. He had already mapped their strengths and weaknesses for the battles to come. This was no mere attack. It was a war of anticipation. The first battle inside the academy had begun. The council convened, panicked and furious. Saren's hands shook as he addressed the remaining instructors. "He is learning faster than we can adapt," Valon nodded grimly. "We are no longer hunters. We are the hunted." Spells were readied, wards reinforced, and elite squads deployed, yet none could predict Arryn's next move. From the shadows he observed, patient and calculated. The city above slept, oblivious to the war brewing beneath its walls. Arryn knew that fear was a weapon as potent as any magic, and tonight he would wield it fully. Shadows surged through corridors, silently incapacitating squads of students attempting to flee. Ron moved through the main hall, a black streak against the glowing wards. The first elite mage attempted a counterattack, launching fire and lightning simultaneously. Aaron dodged effortlessly, absorbing some energy and redirecting the rest into shadows behind him. The chamber trembled under the force, walls cracking as his presence grew. Valon tried a direct strike, but Aaron anticipated it, neutralizing every movement with precision. Every instructor present realized they were facing not just speed or strength, but perfection. Shadows coiled, extending tendrils that manipulated the very air around them. The council's combined spells flickered and failed under the weight of Arn's aura. A chill of despair spread across the remaining instructors. "You underestimate what a shadow can do," Arn said softly. Its presence alone caused hesitation. Hesitation caused mistakes. One elder lunged desperately, only to be restrained by tendrils of darkness. The hall echoed with the quiet hum of his shadow energy, omnipresent and overwhelming. The academy had believed in walls, wards, and numbers, but none could contain him. Each failed attack fed Arn's knowledge, sharpening him for the coming confrontations. He had become a predator, and the academy his territory. Shadows spread through every hallway, every tower, every corridor. Students whispered rumors, some fainting at the oppressive aura seeping through the walls. The first phase of his war was complete. Total dominance of the internal defenses. Aaron paused briefly, standing in the main chamber, his aura radiating across the entire hall. The council and elite instructors were trapped in shadows, unable to move. Valon, struggling, realized the magnitude of Arn's transformation. "He's beyond anything we trained for," he muttered, disbelief overtaking pride. Arn's black eyes glowed fully, revealing the depth of his power. The shadows twisted, forming weapons, shields, and tendrils, ready for further action. His presence became a living force, manipulating fear itself. The council realized they were no longer rulers. They were subjects in a domain defined by shadows. Every corner of the academy bent to his will. His body, mind, and aura had fused perfectly with the shadows. "This is only the beginning," Aaron said calmly. "I will reshape this academy, and the world beyond it, into what it should be." Shadows extended outward, reaching every tower and corridor. The remaining students and instructors felt paralyzed, unsure whether to flee or surrender. The academy had been shown the true meaning of fear. Valon finally dropped to his knees, fully realizing they were powerless to stop him. Saren's staff trembled in his hands as he watched the boy's power expand without limit. Aaron's aura pulsed, bending the air, light, and perception itself. "I am not just a shadow," he whispered. "I'm the king of them all." From the highest tower, he observed the city below, silent and unaware. Every step he took inside the academy had been preparation, every strike a lesson. Shadows wrapped around him like a crown, a symbol of dominion and inevitability. The council and instructors were left broken, humbled, and terrified. The first wave of his war had succeeded completely. Every corner of the academy now recognized the Shadow King's authority. Aaron disappeared into the darkness once more, unseen but omnipresent. Plans were forming in his mind, strategies to dismantle the academy entirely. The Shadow War had begun, and no force within the walls could stop it. Aaron's legend as the Shadow King was only just beginning. The Royal Magic Academy burned with tension, every corridor echoing panic and fear, students and instructors scattered, wards failing under the overwhelming shadow presence. The council convened desperately, knowing this was the endgame. High Elder Saren's eyes blazed with determination, yet trembled with fear. "This is it," he said, gripping his staff tightly. "We face the boy, the Shadow King." Valon stood beside him, battered but resolute. "We cannot let him destroy everything we built," he said quietly. Every elder understood. This battle would decide the academy's fate. Outside, the city remained unaware, oblivious to the darkness consuming the heart of their strongest institution. Arn emerged silently, a black silhouette atop the central tower. Shadows pulsed and writhed around him, stretching into the hallways, the classrooms, the entire academy. His eyes glowed fully, a piercing black light, reflecting mastery and power. The council stared in shock, realizing the boy they had underestimated was no longer human. "You've all learned your lesson too late," Aaron said softly, voice echoing like rolling thunder. "Tonight, the Shadow King rises fully." Shadows expanded outward like living smoke, enveloping the council entirely. Spells collided against the darkness, but it twisted, absorbed, and returned every strike. Valon launched a flurry of attacks, each more desperate than the last. Aaron countered effortlessly, a single movement sending him spinning across the hall. Saren tried to summon a combined elemental spell, weaving fire, lightning, and ice into a massive barrier. Arn's shadow moved like liquid, phasing through the assault, absorbing every ounce of energy. The chamber trembled violently under the pressure of their combined magic. The walls cracked, and the ceiling groaned. Shadows wrapped around the remaining instructors, holding them motionless in place. Arn stepped forward, aura radiating, bending the room's very space. Every elder felt their strength drain in the presence of pure shadow mastery. "This is not just power," Arn said softly. "This is inevitability." Every eye in the chamber was fixed upon him, fear paralyzing their thoughts. Shadows coalesced into blades, spears, and tendrils, poised to strike with precision. Valon lunged desperately, hoping to land a decisive blow. Arn caught his attack midair, compressing the energy and redirecting it into a harmless eruption of darkness. Saren tried to strike from above, but his spell was neutralized before it could leave his hands. The remaining council attempted a simultaneous counterattack, combining every spell in their arsenal. Arn's shadow aura expanded exponentially, bending light, sound, and perception itself. Every spell failed, dissipating harmlessly against his control. The room grew colder, darker, and heavier with the oppressive power of the Shadow King. Students outside felt the pull of shadows creeping. Through the academy, spreading panic, Aaron's presence alone dictated the battlefield. "You cannot win," he said softly, voice echoing across the hall. "You cannot control what you cannot comprehend." Shadows surged, lifting the council and instructors from the ground, immobilized completely. Valon gasped, realizing the full extent of the boy's transformation. Saren struggled, but even his combined elemental mastery was useless. Arn moved forward slowly, shadows responding instantly to every motion. Every strike he made was a lesson. Every step, a demonstration of absolute power. The council realized they were no longer in control. They were spectators to something beyond comprehension. Tendrils of darkness extended outward, merging into a massive vortex around Arn. The chamber itself seemed to bend, reshaping under his shadow. "This is only the beginning," Arn whispered, shadows tightening around the council. "The academy has taught you arrogance. I will teach you humility." Every pulse of his aura caused panic to ripple through the remaining instructors. Students who had peered into the hall fainted or screamed at the oppressive presence. Valon, pinned in place, realized he was facing not a student but a force of nature. Arn's eyes glowed fully, shadows spreading like a crown of dominance. The council tried one last desperate combined spell, pouring every ounce of mana into it. Shadows wrapped around the magic, twisting, absorbing, and redirecting it harmlessly. The elders fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the magnitude of his control. Aaron stepped forward, aura radiating like a black sun. "Witness your limits," he said, voice calm yet commanding. The entire academy shook under the weight of his power. Shadows wrapped around the council, instructors, and even the outer wards, asserting total dominance. Valon and Saren understood fully. Nothing within the academy could resist him. Arn raised both arms, shadows flowing upward into a swirling, living storm. The black book hovered behind him, confirming his status, whispering praise for his mastery. Tendrils of darkness formed a crown-like aura, marking the completion of his transformation. "I am not a student, not a mage, not a man," he declared. "I am the Shadow King, ruler of fear and shadows." His presence alone bent reality, every surface warping under his dominion. The council attempted to flee, but the shadows blocked every exit. Students screamed in terror, some fainting, unable to comprehend what had transpired. Valon shouted, trying to rally the instructors, but his voice was drowned in the oppressive aura. Mern's shadows wrapped around him effortlessly, neutralizing every struggle. Saren fell to his knees, understanding he had faced the ultimate evolution of power. The academy had been tested, crushed, and reshaped in a single night. Arn moved through the chamber, shadows pulsating like living energy. Every being present felt the full weight of his dominance. He was no longer a student, no longer a boy. He had ascended fully into the Shadow King. "This is your lesson," Aaron said softly, shadows constricting around the council. "You will respect what you cannot control." The chamber quaked violently as his aura expanded further, consuming every corner. Every barrier, every spell, every magical defense shattered under the raw force of his presence. Students outside whispered rumors, terrified and awed. The city above remained ignorant of the apocalypse brewing within the academy walls. Shadows wrapped around Iran, forming a crown and cloak of absolute dominion. The council and instructors were immobilized completely, their authority erased. Arn's eyes glowed one last time, black as midnight, radiating absolute mastery. And thus, the Shadow King fully ascended, his reign over fear, shadows, and power unchallenged.